Welcome to My Morning Cup, a podcast produced by Costa Media Advisors and brought to you by the generous support of the Tennessee Valley Authority. To learn more about TVA's impact on our community, follow TVA on Instagram at TVA and on Twitter X at TVA News. My Morning Cup, where we have interesting conversations with genuine people. I'm Mike Costa, your host. My guest this week is Peppo Biscarini. Peppo grew up in Italy and came to the United States to pursue a swimming career. An injury and many years later, Peppo found the American dream. Peppo, welcome to My Morning Cup. Before we get into coming to a new country as a young man to pursue success, let me ask, what's in your morning cup?
Ooh, what a question. I look at it right now. There's
Nothing in that
there.
cup.
Maybe we should fill it with some cappuccino.
I should have offered you something.
Yeah, what is the cappuccino? Oh, boy.
What do you prefer?
Do you have cappuccino?
No, I don't.
Well, you give me a choice, and then there is only one thing.
Well, I was asking from the standpoint of on a typical morning, what do you prefer?
Actually, it's kind of an interesting thing. I've been making cappuccino for my wife for the past 3 years. I'm not a coffee drinker, tell you the truth. And what happened about 3 years ago, I felt God kind of put it on my heart. Peppo, I tell you what, your wife loves coffee, so why don't you start making coffee for her? And I resisted at first because growing up in Italy, in my family, my mother got up first and she made espresso for my dad. And she would walk into his bedroom with a little cup and the little spoon going ding, 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 ding. So that was my father's alarm. So he got up, got dressed, and went.
That sounds fabulous.
I know it. So that's what I grew up with. And all of a sudden I'm going, oh, wait a minute. I had to do the reverse. Something is not right. Yeah. And not just an espresso, but a cappuccino. So that was something else.
Do you have a cappuccino machine?
Actually, I have the old-fashioned, I don't know how you call it in English, cafetiera. Is it 2 parts?
I've got one of those,
Yeah, how do you call it? It's a...
I call it by its brand name. What is that?
Bialetti.
Bialetti. Yeah, that's what I have, Bialetti.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Bialetti.
So, Bialetti. Yeah, Bialetti. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good coffee.
Yeah, absolutely.
So welcome to My Morning Cup.
Glad to be here.
I think you and I met online.
I think it was online because I noticed the last name. I said, no, Costa. I said, no, Costa, that's my cousin. So maybe I have a relative here.
Yeah.
And then you told me you're from Sicily.
Those guys we are cousins to a great degree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's been my pleasure getting to know you. And you got a great story. You grew up in Milan.
Yes.
So kind of take us from the beginning. You grew up in Milan, but you come to the States when you're 18. So what was it like growing up in Milan?
Well, growing up in Milano was, back in the days, was a little bit different than today because the weather was terrible. I remember, a lot of times my father getting me out of the car to walk in front of the car because the fog was so bad.
Wow.
So, yes, the weather used to be very, very bad. Now it's changed a lot. Pollution was terrible. Traffic was bad. So not that many great memories because people think of Italy, they think, oh, it's such a beautiful country, the hills, the sea and whatnot. Milano is like New York.
It's an industrial city, right?
Well, it's kind of the center for finance, for fashion, definitely. But let's say that the natural environment is not that conducive to, a beautiful environment because, again, you got smog, pollution, fog. So, but, in comparison to other parts of Italy back at the time, it offered a lot of opportunities.
For someone who's not familiar with the Italian map or the map of Italy, where is Milano? So
Milano is up on the north. You're very close to Switzerland. You're literally 30 minutes by train from Lugano, which is the first town, big town. And smack in the middle of the northern part. But I prefer, honestly, the south because the people are different, they're much warmer. The water, the sea is great, and I'm a water guy, so I appreciate that.
Well, speaking of water, you're a swimmer, and talk about how that leads you to come into the U.S. You start swimming at what age?
Well, I started at 5 because I had too much energy. So my folks said, this kid, what do we do with him? So they threw me in the water.
That's the way you learn to swim.
Exactly. Long and behold, I tell you, we come home and we'll be tired. So they found the right venue to get the energy out. But yeah, I started when I was 5 years old, and I started doing pretty well. So before I knew it, I competed at my first national when I was 10 years old, and the career was kind of launched from there.
What would you swim?
My main event was butterfly. Because I'm a little bit heavier set. So
I wouldn't call you heavy set. I'd call you strong.
Well, yeah, but my bone density is a little bit higher. So you're developing muscle to stay afloat, and then you need to develop the muscle to go forward. So it's kind of a handicap, if you wish. And butterfly is a very powerful stroke, so that plays into it.
I've never swam competitively, but butterfly looks like it might be one of the more exhausting swims.
Yes, indeed it is.
Now, you had a world record at 15?
Yes, at 15 I had a chance to compete. No, this was a crazy thing. This is extreme sport before the extreme sport term actually existed. Was a 24-hour swim. And was a world championship. So I thought it would be great to compete in that. And so I talked to my coach, who actually also trained the current world record holder at the time. And I told him, can I compete too? And he said, well, you got to qualify, the pool, because it's done in a swimming pool, 50-meter pool. So, the pool is full, and then all of a sudden one guy from England scratched. So there was a lane that was open. And so I said, can I do it? But the federation said, you're way too young, because it takes a toll on your body. 15, 24 hours is pretty hard. So they denied it. My coach petitioned for it, and they said, okay, if the medical community clears you, then we'll let you compete. So they put me through all sorts of testing, and they said, he's super fit, so let him do it.
So what's driving you at that age to do competitive swimming to that level?
Very good question. I think my mother probably. He gets me. I don't even know why it gets me now. She was a tough cookie. She went through medical school during World War II.
Oh, wow.
And there weren't many women going to medical school, especially during that period. So she was a very, very tough woman. And I called her moray eel, because moray eels are the type that bites and doesn't let go. And so she taught me that tenacity.
Yeah.
Now, why do crazy things? I don't know, because I have a warped mind probably. But growing up, I always thought, okay, I want to push my limits. I want to find out how far I can go.
Was that a culture in your family?
Not necessarily. I mean, my father wasn't into sports at all. My father was prisoner of war. So he had a tough life himself, because he was in a prison camp in Germany for 2 years during World War II. And he came back, he was only 110 pounds, wow. 6'2". But my mother, I think, is the one that had the tenacity. She's the one that said, you don't let go until you get what you want to get, right? And so the pushing of yourself, I don't know where it came from, but part of it is, again, my DNA.
Yeah.
And you don't know how far you can go until you push yourself to test the limit, right? And that's kind of the mindset that I always had.
Do you have siblings?
Two older sisters.
Do they have the same drive or the same influence of your mom?
The firstborn, I'm the last one. The firstborn, not as much. The second one was very much of a pioneer herself, explorer. She bought a sailboat. She disappeared for 8 years, just traveling around the world. And so she has that adventuresome mindset that I have. Now, the tenacity, I think the second one has it more than the first. The first one has it in different ways, because we're all different, personality-wise. But to some extent, all of us have had a trickling of what my mother had, yes.
Yeah. So that tenacity and that drive, you're swimming, you got a world record at 15, and it leads you to the United States. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, after that, my goal was the Olympics, and I talked to my mother, said, do we have any relatives in the United States? Because the United States has the best swimming team at the time. And
was that the Mark Spitz years or after that?
that was pretty much, yeah, because Mark Spitz, came to the scene, right in the 70s, and that was pretty much the time.
Yeah.
Doc Conselman was the coach of excellence. And so my mother said, well, actually, I have a cousin, or I had a cousin in New York. I said, you kidding me? So we did some research, and all of a sudden I found an address. So I started writing letters to the U.S., and I was writing letters to the daughter of her cousin. And little by little, we're going back and forth. And then all of a sudden they came to visit to Italy. And then I said, hey, I'm graduating from high school next year. Can I come and see you? So that kind of started the ball rolling. And then Berkeley, was interested. So I thought, okay, maybe I can go there. So I visited the campus, and it blew me away. It was just too much of a change, too much to soon.
That was University of California at Berkeley?
Yes. Yeah. So I said, well, I don't know if I'm ready for this.
We'll talk a little bit about that culture shock. You're going from Milano in Italy to University of California, Berkeley, which is a notoriously progressive
Absolutely.
school.
Yeah. Well, what happened was, growing up in Italy, and it's still very much the same way right now, you're seeing kids that are 25, 30 years old, they still live at home.
Yeah.
And partially it's financial, right? Things are tough. And partially is because we like the community, we like family, we like to be together, So why go out and spend money to be on your own when you can be with the family until you get married and get off? So the family nucleus is something that is very important to an Italian. It's changing, little by little it's changing. So all of a sudden, and you have certain values. I mean, I grew up in a Catholic family, so you have certain values. And so I remember, just walking on campus the first time as I was evaluating and considering it, and I was in the bathroom. All of a sudden, there is this girl coming out of the shower while I'm going to the bathroom. Like, what in the world? And she looks
Did you go in the
said,
wrong
what's
bathroom?
the matter? I said, what's the matter? I don't think I'm in the wrong place because this is a urinal for men. What's going on? I said, oh, no, this is a co-ed everything. I'm going, whoa.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was a bit of a shock. And that's why I decided, you know what? I think I want to live with my cousin, speak Italian still, have Italian meals. So I ended up in a junior college, believe it or not. But it was a much easier transition that way.
And where was that?
That was in Northern California. That was in Sacramento.
So were you swimming at the junior college?
Yeah.
And where did that take you?
So from there, then I missed the water. So I started driving down south, and I ended up in San Diego on a beautiful day, calm water, people swimming. I thought, whoa.
Yeah,
okay,
San
this is
Diego,
it.
man.
I said, this is it. It was La Jolla Cove. This is it. So I kind of went backward. I said, okay, what schools do they have here? So I contacted the coach at UC San Diego and said, oh, we'd love to have you. So I continued at UCSD, and then I went on to San Diego State.
So was that something you were on scholarship on?
Well,
had
unfortunately, UCSD didn't have full scholarship. They had some partial. So I got a partial from them, yes.
And what about when you went to San Diego?
Well, when I went to San Diego, that's a problem. What happened in between, this is kind of a sad story, but so I ended up at UCSD, and then I was transitioning to San Diego State in January. And school year ended. I had a 2-week period before the new school year started at San Diego State, zero insurance in between. And I thought, well, nothing's going to happen, and was January 7 of 83 that, boom, I broke my back at La Jolla Cove. Yeah.
How did you do that?
Somebody was taking some pictures on top of a cliff, and then I told her, let me go down at the bottom of this cliff so you can take pictures from above. And all of a sudden I hear this rumbling, a turn, and I see this huge wave coming. And I thought, oh, this is bad. And I went down, I anchored myself, and the wave slammed me against the cliff. And all of a sudden, I'm falling into a crack. And I remember just saying, oh, God, I'm coming home. That was it. Yeah. And then everything went black. I don't remember a thing until I was at the very, very top. I have no idea how I got there.
So you're in your 20s. You're in college.
Correct.
You're obviously a great swimmer. Mm-hmm. And you're getting ready to go to San Diego. No insurance. Mm-hmm. And you never think you're going to get hurt.
That's right.
And you get hurt.
That's right.
And leave the insurance aside, your dreams of being a swimmer.
That didn't hit me at the moment. The first thing that I thought of, because the person I was with said, I'm going to take you to the emergency right away. And the lifeguards start coming over. And I said, no. Just take me to your place. We sorted out. I was a bloody mess. So as we drove away, the adrenaline started coming down. And I'm going, I'm in trouble. I'm in pain. I wasn't thinking, this might end my swimming career. I was thinking, what am I going to do? Because, hospitals are expensive.
Yeah.
So we went to her place. She kind of cleaned me up, and then the pain was pretty bad. So I said, let's go to the hospital. So I went there, and they said, well, you fractured 2 vertebrae, herniated 3 discs. We should operate. And I said, no, don't touch me. I'm still training. So give me drugs to kill the pain. So they gave me drugs, but obviously, training went nowhere.
Yeah.
My schooling went nowhere because you're drugged all the time. So that was, I think it hit me hard, actually, Mike, after surgery, because I pushed it through until November. So I went from January to November doing this. And then the doctor said, no, this is stupid. I mean, you're severing your sciatic nerve. What are you doing?
You make it worse.
Exactly. But I didn't want to give up.
Yeah.
And then finally November, they cut me up. And when I went home, even to give you the mindset, I mean, I'm still am so messed up in the sense that competition is kind of the driving force, always pushing yourself, right? So here I am at the hospital, and I'm asking the surgeon, how long does it take to recuperate and get out of the hospital? I'm saying, well, typically we release people, after 4 days, back then. And I say, no, I want to get out sooner. So I pushed, and they released me after 2 days. So here I am at home by myself after 2 days. Couldn't quite move, didn't have any assistant. I said, what am I thinking?
Yeah.
What am I thinking? And that's when it hit me hard, because I felt actually that in that moment, I felt that Satan was telling me, you are nobody. You were a swimmer, that has been taken away from you.
You lost your
are
identity.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Your identity is gone. Why don't you just send it?
Wow.
Whoa.
That's pretty powerful.
Yes. Because, I had to roll out of bed and drag myself on the floor to go to the bathroom. So it's like, I couldn't even walk.
Yeah.
Forget about swimming. And that's when I felt that God said, Peppo, your feet are firmly planted in midair. They're not planted on me, the rock. And that was a shock, because on one side, I realized swimming is over. This is it. On the other side, I realized, what am I living for? Because a lot of people make that mistake. If you wrap your identity in what you produce, you're doomed. Because the moment you cease to produce, you're done. And so it was a tough lesson, but I'm glad that I learned that lesson early on.
I think a lot of people struggle with that identity thing. And I'm only going to look at myself. When I left my television job, my identity was wrapped up in that job. And I think you make an excellent point of, you run that risk of putting everything into, I'm a swimmer, and I'm going to be an Olympic swimmer. And then it's taken away.
And people don't help you with that, because they praise you just for that one thing that you do, right? Yeah. So we are egotistical in many ways. We can get very proud, and that feeds the ego, and it's an awful beast. So the more you feed that side, the more enchained or entrapped, you get.
Yeah, and you really can't feed it enough,
Oh, no. Oh, that's a black hole.
How old were you when all this happened?
Well, that was on November of '83. I just turned 23 years old.
Okay, so all your life, since you're a kid, you're trained to be a swimmer. You came to the United States, trained Olympics. You're going to go to San Diego. All this happens. What turns you to being productive again?
Well, faith was a strong component, because I had a strong conversion when I came here to U.S. I mean, back home was, I grew up Catholic, and you know what it's like. A lot of it is traditional.
We got rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're more wrapped into a tradition than a relation. And that's, I think, what was the difference with me, because I think
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I did what everybody's supposed to do, but I felt empty, honestly. And that led me to the opposite side. I mean, I started getting into reading books on black magic.
Oh, really?
And practicing some of that, yes. So I had that dichotomy growing up. One side wanted to go to church on Sunday and serve because I was an altar boy.
Yeah.
And the other side was attracted to power.
Interesting.
After the world record, you get the media, you get all of this, and I don't have big shoulders to handle this. I need to plug somewhere to get power. That's why I was attracted to the occult.
How long did you experience that? Or
pretty much between 15 until I came here, I was 18. So those 3 years. And then once I came here, I had a powerful conversion. So all of that kind of went away. But faith is what kept me going.
Do you want to talk about the conversion at all? Because I'm just curious how you go from.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up Catholic as an altar boy, and you're right, traditions, and this is the way we do it, and then you end up, you make the sign of the cross without even thinking about it.
That's right.
But to delve into the opposite side for 3 years, which is a long time, how did you get out of that?
Well, basically, I came here to the U.S. and I went to 3 or 4 Sundays to church, Catholic church, and I still felt the same kind of emptiness. And then my cousin's mother, actually, she was a Protestant, and she took me to a Pentecostal church. And that was a shock. Never been to a Protestant church, and to start off with a Pentecostal one was quite an experience.
Well, particularly a traditional Catholic from Italy.
Oh, boy, absolutely. So I went there, and people are clapping, raising their hands, dancing. I thought, this is a circus, So I went from a dead church to a circus. I said, is there anything in between? So I remember one night, I was behind the house. There was this beach, with the lake, and I remember just sitting down there and saying, oh, God, I'm done. I don't get anything on one side. The other side is lunatic. And so if you're really there and you care, come and get me. It wasn't a proud and arrogant challenge, but I know you're there, but I don't know where to go, right? So it was a cry of help, right?
You're looking for a sign? Exactly.
So what happened, actually, maybe 2 weeks went by and I didn't go to church. And I went to church every single Sunday. As a good Catholic, you go every single Sunday. So I skipped those 2 weekends. And then one morning I was having breakfast and I had something that compelled me to go back to that beach. Something inside said, go back to that beach. And I sat down, and all of a sudden it felt like a bell of energy that trapped me. And I'm going, what is going on? Because when you're dealing with the occult, you are in control of the situation. You get too scared, you stop, and everything stops. And I've been in those situations. Here was something much more powerful out of my control. And I had no idea if it was good or evil. No idea. And the first thing that I heard is, Peppo, you think you have a lot of friends, but you're alone. Ooh, that cut me.
Yeah, I bet.
That cut me, because I'm thinking, well, I'm in school. I have all the girls hanging around. I have the guys hanging around because they want to meet the girls. But who cares about me, really? So that sense of emptiness. Second thing is, you don't know how to love because you love yourself too much. I was like, ow, that really hurts too. And then the third thing is, look at the qualities that you have, look at what's around you, but give me praise. And then the sensation went away. And I thought, whoa, what was that all about? So I thought, I better go to church tomorrow. That was Saturday. I better go to. So I went back to a church, Catholic church, and the priest had a sermon with 3 points, and the 3 points were exactly the same in the same order.
Wow.
And that blew me away. And I thought, okay, you're there, definitely. The message I heard yesterday. So what is going on? And then through a dream that night, I dreamt about this girl smiling, and was a girl that I saw on campus once. So the next day I'm walking on campus, and then I went to swimming practice. It was the first official swimming practice, and the girl was part of the swim team. And so I went up to her and said, hey, I had a dream about you last night.
That's a great line, Peppo.
And so she was kind of taken a little bit, but so we started talking, and sure enough, she was a very, very strong believer, and she started taking me to her church, and I went, and I was trying to process things, and so I had a strong conversion maybe 2 weeks after, where I felt, okay, God, you don't want my lip service, you want my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to give you my heart. So that was truly the turning point.
So you found
it became a relational, as I said.
You found the in-between.
Absolutely, yes.
And all this was prior to your back injury?
This all happened right, maybe 6 months I came to the U.S. So that happened in February of 80.
Okay.
And I broke my back
in 83.
Yes.
So fast forward to you broke your back, you're home, you're having to pull yourself out of bed. What gets you going again? I know your faith, but what in your mind said, okay, I've got to tackle this?
Yeah, so basically is you are stripped of certain things, but you always want to maximize what you have on your plate. Instead of wishing for something else that you don't have any longer, saying, okay, let's do inventory. What do I have now? What can I work with? And how can I maximize what is left? And I feel that, again, God in the process gives you new things to work on. So you think you're being depleted of certain inventory, but at the same time, your inventory is getting rearranged, if you wish. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt. I said, okay, I don't have that per se to rely upon. What's there? Because I'm still me. A portion of me has died, but I still have a bandwidth that I can maximize. So that was kind of the beginning. So I thought entrepreneurship, my mind always kind of went because I saw the opportunities here, that you don't have in Italy. In Italy, there is a lot of red tape to do anything. And so I thought, okay, let's get creative. And I started launching my shoe line, out of Italy. Somebody told me about this manufacturing plant. I was still studying. I was studying international marketing. And I thought, why not? I started importing shoes from Italy. So I started designing the shoes, set the designs over. They start manufacturing. I bring them in. And that actually created a little bit of a conflict because you have theory while you go to school and then you have practice because you're doing it. And it's like, well, the two are not
they
really.
Don't always match.
Yeah, exactly.
So you launched a shoe line while you were in school?
Yes, yeah. Peppo de Conte was the name of it.
Peppo de Conte?
Yeah.
And what is de Conte?
Conte means count. Talking about pride, right? So that didn't die all the way.
Count Peppo.
So Peppo the Count, yes.
And I'm assuming that was successful for you.
Yeah, it went well, actually. Helped me to go through school. I was doing that. I was doing acting at the same time. So they were paying for, some of the expenses that I had. But the shoe line, was doing well. And that's actually how I met my wife-to-be because she was one of my reps at the time. Yes.
So at this time, you're acting and doing some modeling. So
yes.
You were obviously a good-looking guy.
Well, thanks. Cannot take any credit for that, but I kind of had the Hollywood bug in me. Yeah. So I was doing a lot of work while I was going to school in San Diego. I kept traveling up to LA, back and forth for different gigs. And then as soon as I graduated, I said, okay, let me move to Los Angeles to make it easier. And I decided I need to make it work. I don't want to be a waiter. And a lot of people are waiters, I said, it either happens or it doesn't, right? And then the exchange rate between the Italian lira and the US dollar kind of went to pot. I didn't have any hedging behind it. So, and the manufacturer wasn't consistent with quality. So I thought this is going to spell headaches, going down the road.
Talking about your shoe line?
Shoe line, yeah. So I said, I better put my energy into this.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And for about 7 years, it was great. It was a great run. It was really a lot of fun. A lot of TV commercials, national commercials, and, they paid residual, which is great. So you're multiplying yourself in the process.
So you didn't have to go through that starving artist.
No, I was lucky enough where, pretty much right off the bat, I had.
You were getting gigs and
yeah.
Mainly commercials, any shows?
Mainly TV commercial. I'd done a TV show, was called Capital, and but mainly was TV commercials, yeah.
So you did that for 7 years and got married during that time?
Yeah. So I met my wife-to-be and we were talking about marriage, and I thought this is now the right environment to create a family because Hollywood can be pretty gnarly. And so I decided let's move back to San Diego because she was from San Diego originally. Let's move back to San Diego and I have a regular career, which is not really befitting me because I'm more of an entrepreneur, but I started in commercial real estate. So I was doing retail in commercial real estate. So
commercial real estate in San Diego, how long do you do that?
For about 2 years. And that type of corporate life, I didn't really enjoy. A lot of kissing up to people. I said, this is not me.
We hear that from a lot of entrepreneurs that we've talked to on this podcast that really, unless they started right out of school with their entrepreneurial idea, they've gone into the corporate environment and they get in and they're working in a cubicle and they got these rules and this thing. And it's like, God, I can't wake up when I'm 40 and know that I've been doing this for 15, 20 years.
That's right.
So you wake up and you go, I can't do this corporate environment thing.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
So what's next is taking risks because if you're giving that up, I didn't have the residuals from acting anymore. And I decided, you know what, let me go to what I love to do. So since water is what I knew, I decided to develop what is called a monofin, is a single fin where you put both feet and you kick like a dolphin.
I've seen that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I brought the monofins to the United States.
Really?
And I brought the front snorkel. You see a lot of people now swimming with the front snorkel. So I started manufacturing both things, here in the US, and was a love affair in the sense that that's what I knew, and I was recognized in the industry because of it. So I was invited to give lecture to different coaches. So I was working with Stanford, UCLA, Texas A&M, Berkeley, you name it, mainly working with those coaches on speed training by using these devices, right? Then the Italian Federation also asked me to promote the sport. It's called fin swimming. He said, promote the sports in the US so that we can make it an Olympic sport. And that's when politics come into the picture, because at the time, the best in the world were the Chinese and the Germans, some Russians as well. Those were the three. And the bottom line, talking to the USOC, US Olympic Committee, basically they said, Peppo, unless we can medal, it's not going to become an Olympic sport.
Unless the U.S. can medal.
Exactly.
They're not going to put their time and effort into making it an Olympic sport.
Isn't it sad?
Yeah.
We have had world championship in fin swimming, European championship, Pan Am Games and all. Olympics was the thing that was missing. So I started working with U.S. athletes.
Yeah.
They were very good. But it's a different sport. So you get the best butterflyer. I talked to Matt Biondi. I work with some great athletes, but they weren't performing as well, once you put those devices on.
Yeah.
So
from a training aspect, does the device help with regular swimming?
Absolutely. The whole idea was to create, again, a speed that exceeds your natural speed so that your body positioning changes in the water. And your neuromuscular response is what you're activating. Your body says, ooh, I feel lighter. I feel on top of the water. So when you're removing the device, you want to duplicate that sensation. So your arms, in the way you're catching the water and moving, wants to duplicate what you just felt.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
And was this Hyperfin the company?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
How long did you do that?
So I did that basically from 1992 until 1996. Things were going well, and I wish I stuck it out, honestly, Mike, because then it exploded.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a love affair because I had to do a lot of educating. A lot of people didn't know about fin swimming, didn't know about this thing.
Yeah.
So you got to spend money and time in educating the general public. So luckily I had articles written in different publications. I was on Good Morning America, Discovery Channel, and so on and so forth. But it wasn't catching on fast enough. And I'm thinking, I'm in love with this thing, but I got to put bread on the table at the same time, right? So what happened, a friend of mine said, Peppo, I need to take this company public. I need some help. Can you join me and help me to take this company public? So the offer was good. And I thought, let me catch that.
And what was that company?
That was called Allen Corporation. And they were making this material that resembled titanium. So they were taking aluminum, mixing it with boron carbide, and the results have different applications in the sports industry, computer industry, aerospace industry.
And you're a pretty young guy at this time. So you're
I was
raising
30,
a family.
36 years old, 35, 36.
Raising a family, as you say, you got to put bread on the table.
Exactly. Family of two. My wife was working at the time as well. And I thought, I like to have her at home. I don't want her to go out and work. So.
Right. How long are you in California, and what brings you to Chattanooga?
So I was in California until the end of 1999. So at that time, I was with another company because another friend of mine, he launched a marketing company for hedge funds. Mm-hmm. And so he said, Peppo, I need help with European clientele. You are from Europe, you understand them, you know them, can you do this? And I said, no, sure. So I joined that company and started traveling back and forth to Europe quite a lot. So we came to the point where I talked to my wife and I said, no, what do you think if we just move to Europe? The kids are young. Let's do it. So that culturally they can be, equipped to see different cultures and learn the language, The food is going to be incredible. Yeah. so why not do this?
What an experience for your kids.
I know. And so we decided, because our daughter was only about 2.5, our son was about 7.5. And so we pick up and went. I wanted to go to Switzerland first, because the Swiss have a system that works, and Italy is so messed up when it comes to rules and regulations. And most of my clients actually were in Switzerland and England. But because of taxation regulation that they had, we decided, okay, let's go to Lake Como, which is close enough to Switzerland, but you're still on Italian ground. So,
which I hear is beautiful.
Yeah, it's very wet, but it's a beautiful country, beautiful town.
And what you hear is George Clooney has a place there.
Oh, yeah. That was right before Clooney came in and ruined it. No. Because prices of real estate just went to the moon after that. Yeah.
I bet. And how long?
We were there for about almost 2 years.
And I got to imagine people listening to this. You grew up in Milano. You go to California. You're in Switzerland. Now you're in Lake Como. Where's Chattanooga coming in all this?
Oh, it was crazy, because what happened when I was in Como, that's when I had another shift in life. I was dealing with a lot of what we call up and outer. People that have made it, in life, they're successful, because if you know anything about hedge funds, at the time was a minimum of $1 million, investment. But I saw in a lot of those people, I saw a lot of melancholy. I saw a lot of, I don't want to say depression because it's a strong word, but, people have their carrot dangling in front of their faces, and that keeps them going, gives them hope. These people ate the whole garden, and they're still feeling empty.
It didn't satisfy them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I felt that God was saying, Peppo, what are you doing that has eternal value? Whoa.
That's a big question.
Big question, because I was helping these people to make, 20, 30, 40% returns on their investment, but that's not what they needed. So that caught my attention. And through a series of circumstances, basically, we were recruited in one organization called Campus Crusade for Christ. So we had a shift of 180 from finance into ministry. So that brought us to Palm Beach. We did ministry in Palm Beach for about 3 years with a certain elite. I didn't look for it, the Lord kind of presented it. And then from there, we got deployed in Rome. And we lived in Rome for about 8 years. And we had to send our young girl, she was only 13, to boarding school in Germany. Our son at the time went to UC San Diego.
Oh, man.
And my wife is saying, our family's scattered. Yeah. What are we doing? And so as we contemplated being together again, she wanted to go back to California. I wanted to go back to Florida. A friend from Florida that we met previously moved to Chattanooga. And she said, I hear that you want to come back to the U.S. Why don't you come to Chattanooga? I said, Chatta what? What?
What's a Chattanooga?
She said, yeah, it's in Tennessee. And I'm thinking, Tennessee. I don't think there's any water in Tennessee. So the kind of water that I like, salt water. Yeah. And so she said, no, it's beautiful. People are nice. You got to come. I moved here 2 years ago. I love it. And so we decided, let's do a scouting trip. So we came for 5 days, met different people. And I thought, I think we can make it work, for the time being, because our daughter needed to finish high school. Mm-hmm. And so we came with the understanding that we're going to be here for about 3 years and then, go back. And so we came, our daughter went to school. Then she moved back to California to go to Westmont, and we returned to Italy. Yeah, but at the time, we came and we bought a house here, so we rented the house, and that's what happened. But then we came back in 2020 because our son remained as well, and he was having the first granddaughter.
Well, that's important.
Absolutely. So my wife said, we've got to be there, and that was the beginning of COVID. So we thought, we might take a big chance by going, but let's go because we got to go, right? So we arrived here May 8th, 2020 with 2 carry-ons.
Right in the thick of COVID too.
So all of a sudden, the baby's born, great, we need to go back to Italy. I called the airline, we need to go back, and they go, we're not flying back to Italy. How am I going to go back? So I'll try some other airlines. Nobody will go back. If you remember, Italy was the first
Italy
one
was shut down, particularly northern Italy. Wasn't Milano one of the...
Exactly, because what happened, there was a plant just outside of Milano called Segrate, small town, where they were doing a lot of 5G testing, and people from Huawei, from Wuhan, were coming over. So they just had the Chinese New Year. They came over and they infested that area. And then all of a sudden, Italians have ski week during February. So people from the south come north, and we're just...
That spread it all?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah.
So obviously faith has played part in your story. You're flying pretty high when you're in Italy working with the hedge fund, but there's something that says, what more are you doing?
That's right.
What's that like to have that message either presented to you or bubble up from within you?
You look at some of these people and say, okay, you're a savvy investor. You're always looking at which one is the best manager. And I remember actually one time I had a client in Rome and I just made a transition into full-time ministry. So I went to see him and I said, hey, I want to talk to you about this manager. He is awesome. No losing month, no minimum investment amount. He is incredible. He goes, who is it? Who is it? What's the track record? And I told him, Jesus Christ. I go, what? He flipped
That's a good way to position it.
He flipped out. But in essence, you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, we're so concerned about what can I do while I'm here on earth, and you don't consider what's to come. Obviously there are different positions because there are atheists that don't believe there is an afterlife, but what do you have to lose, right? So why you want to be so savvy for something that is so temporary? It's almost like saying, let me bring the best furniture I can bring into this tent for the weekend. What? You're going on a camping trip on a weekend, you want to bring all this paraphernalia?
Yeah.
It's a tent for the weekend, it's temporary. How about investing in something that is long-term, your real house, right? So that kind of caught me in a sense by surprise, thinking, okay, savvy investors, and yet they're not planning eternal life. So when you approach them that way, they start thinking, you can see wheels spinning. And I remember one remark I might have told you, when we met for breakfast, one guy in particular that hit me pretty hard. He said, I envy my butler.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why are you saying this? He goes home, his wife is there, prepared the meal, the kids are at the table, they share the day, what happened, and they love each other. He said, I go home, my cook prepared the meal, I don't know where my wife is, my kids are probably in their room, there is no communion. What is all of this about? It's terrible. And this one guy in particular said, I'm not going to leave a dime to my kids. I said, no, why? I said, no, because they can wait until I choke to get, the trust. He said, I'm going to leave. He had a lot of art, actually. And he said, I'm going to leave all of this stuff with the Borghese, Villa Borghese. He was Italian descent, with the Villa Borghese Museum. And sure enough, I was actually living in Italy at the time. It was about 2007 or 2008. And I remember seeing this article. Villa Borghese is opening up a Bilotti wing in honor of, this guy, because he gave some $75 million of art.
Well, and it's one of the things I think we all struggle with as we get older. And I saw a quote the other day that really resonated with me. Happiness is quality of life minus envy. It's that envy factor that I think makes so many people so hollow.
Sure.
That you're always trying to keep up with someone else.
Because it's never enough.
And you get it, and you go, is this all it is? Well, maybe I need to go after this.
Well, if Rockefeller was asked that question, remember, there is that famous quote, from the journalist, how much is enough? $1 more.
That's pretty sad, isn't it?
Very sad.
So what are you doing in Chattanooga now?
So now what happened, since we had a church, we started a church in southern Italy, but since we got stuck here, we couldn't go back. I started doing Zoom calls, to keep things going. And then my wife said, Peppo, why don't you just work on a program to read the word for the Italian? In the U.S., you have so many programs, when it comes to faith. Italy is starving for good quality programming. So I prayed about it, and I decided, okay, let me do it. So I started last year with a program called Equipaggiati, which means equipped. Depending on how you say it, it can mean equipped, or in the imperative form, get equipped. Equipaggiati or equipaggiati. That's the difference. And basically, I started with just reading the word, the 4 gospel in 1 year, and prayer. And it went very well. It ranked number one many times on Apple Podcasts. So the second season, which is 2024, is also a commentary, because a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, I'm reading this, but I don't understand what I'm reading. So I've been working on the commentary, and I should be done again another 2 weeks for this year, and then start the English version of that in July.
This is a podcast you do every day.
Correct. Yeah, try to do block of time that are released on a daily basis, correct. Monday through Friday.
Available on all the
platform, but it's all in Italian, that's wrong. All the platforms
so
are in Italian. However, 2025, I will have the English version.
You came here at the height of COVID. You got stuck, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere now. Why are you staying here?
Very good question, because 2 weeks ago, I was talking to my wife and said, what keeps us here? I mean, we could be in Thailand, we could be anywhere. I mean, I can record anywhere around the world, you know, and I have that bug in me right now, you know, the explorer bug.
Yeah.
Family, to some extent. We have a daughter that is still living in California, and we have a son that was living here until about a year ago. He moved to Franklin. So family definitely is the biggest. But then secondly, the community is an interesting community. I mean, we never lock the house. It's very safe. Where in the world do you find that?
Very few places.
Very few places. And so there is that benefit. And you know, friendships are important as well. So at some point, I think I would like my wife to kind of break away and do blocks of time. So we've been considering actually doing 6 months in Italy and 6 months here.
That makes sense. You bring such a different perspective to our conversation than I've had with a lot of people, and I appreciate that. I do have one last question for you. But before I get to that, I want to remind our listeners who makes all this possible. And it's thank you to the Tennessee Valley Authority for sponsoring My Morning Cup. Follow TVA on social media to learn more about its multifaceted mission of service, and visit TVA.com/do-good-here to explore exciting TVA career opportunities. Last question for you, a little bit of thought in this. What would you tell that 25-year-old Peppo is important for a happy life?
Well, the 25-year-old Peppo just had 2 years of reevaluation, because as I mentioned before, at 23, I had that shift, right? And I realized that probably happiness is not what you're really searching for. Joy, to me, is something more profound, because happiness depends on happenings around you. So you're still at the mercy of what's around you, what the circumstances are. So that can fluctuate too much. Joy is something that goes much deeper no matter what happens around you. So the 25-year-old me would say, seek for joy first. Happiness is an add-on.
You know, that I haven't heard it put like that, but I get what you're saying. You know, even the word happy is a derivative of happening. You know, stuff that's happening around you. And joy is more internal and coming from your heart.
That's right.
It's a great answer.
Thanks.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and look forward to talking more with you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
It's good to see you.
You have a great day. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to My Morning Cup, a podcast by Costa Media Advisors. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend. I release a new episode each week, so be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.